Valspar Championship this week on the heels of the TPC, which was won by Cam Smith in a thriller down the stretch on Monday after just a inclement weather-marred tournament, if you will. Valspar's got a pretty darn good field here, Matt.
Yeah, not bad, not bad. This course is going to be probably one of the tougher tests for these guys you're going to see. It's going to force a bunch of less than driver shots, a bunch of layups, a bunch of shot making. It's going to be one of those shot maker courses for sure. 7,340 yards. It's a par 71, but it is not your typical par 71 setup. There are 5 par 3s in this one with 4 par 5s. So it is a different type of setup here for this par 71 for the Valspar. And this is one of those courses now. You are going to have guys that are going to have, I mean, we saw it last week too. There's a few different holes where they were just blow up holes. There are going to be blow up holes. I mean, there are just going to be times where guys are going to lose the tournament on one hole, and it's going to happen, and it's just the tournament's going to be over for those guys. It's just a really, really tough course, and it's going to take everybody kind of grinding for the entire time. It really is an interesting course. I mean, everybody talks about Bay Hill and they talk about Sawgrass, but Innisbrook's a really unique, interesting course, and it'll be fun.
5 par 3s and 4 par 5s?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for that par, for the par 71. So it's pretty interesting with that one. If you're looking, and when I say like why it's going to be just tough, it's tough. It's tree lined. It's tough to hit these fairways. If you take a look, Kelley, the driving distance tour average the last 5 years, it's 286.5 yards. It's 275 at Innisbrook. The driving accuracy is 61%. Over the last 5 years, it's 56% at Innisbrook. Good drive percentage, 82%, 78% at Innisbrook. If you look at the greens in regulation, 66% over the last 5 years on tour. It's 56% at Innisbrook. So you can just see that this course is going to play much, much tougher than the average course on tour over the course of the season.
Yeah, I think the other thing is it's not a very typical Florida-looking golf course is what you're going to see. You've got water on 6 holes, could be more than that. If you really get off the fairway or way off the green, but six holes with water clearly in play. I think the one that a couple of notes that really stuck out to me, Matt, 5th narrowest fairways on tour. So when you're talking about that driving accuracy, really important to get it down down the fairway. Copperhead course, 8th most difficult annually on the tour on strokes gained approach, making it, we talk about how important that stat is almost every week when Matt and I are breaking down golf tournaments. I weighed that heavier than I usually do, Matt, this week. Greens and regulations, the percentage weighed down 56% at this course as opposed to 65% on average on tour. So, a couple of those notes that stuck out to me. This will be a difficult course this week.
And just scoring in general, I mean, it's one of those where, 10, 11, 12 is probably going to win this tournament. If you look here, par 3 scoring tour average, 3.07 is 3.13 at Innisbrook. Par 4 scoring average, 4.05, it's 4.12 at Innisbrook. Par 5 scoring, 4.67 is 4.77 at Innisbrook. Birdie or better percentage is 20.3% over the tour for the last 5 years. At Innisbrook, the last 5 years, it's 16%. I mean, it is just going to be one of those courses where guys are going to have to understand that sometimes just taking par, sometimes laying up, sometimes not going for it is the better way to go about it, and not always trying to force the action with all of this. So with all of that, Kelley, all that being said, I did a fairly basic model this week. I had a very, very heavy approach model, 30% of the 100 on approach, 25% on good drives, 20% around the green, because again, these greens are kind of hard. Greens regulation is way lower at Innisbrook than it is everywhere else. They're going to need to be good around the greens and trying to scramble and get up and down and all that. Par 5 scoring, considering we do have those 4 par 5s, and with that extra par 3, they really need to score on the par 5s. I did just a tiny bit of fairways gain just to kind of see who is really, really good at driving accuracy. And then I just did bogey avoidance because, like I said, I think that par is going to be a good score on the majority of the holes, right? And just don't go out there and make bogeys. Like take pars, get your birdies where they come, and see if you can get to 6 or 7 going into the final round and get yourself in position to maybe make a run on Sunday. So that's a pretty basic, simple model for me this week.
Yeah, I didn't go too much crazier than you. And this of course has this is a course with a stretch of holes that has a fancy nickname too. They have the Snake Pit, 16 through 18.
Yes.
So that will play over par. So like you're talking about, especially if you're sitting there watching, end of the second round or the end of the tournament, that 16 through 18 is going to play very tough par. They're going to be lucky to get out of there with 3 pars. I really did. I looked at good drives, a little bit off the tee. Then it was strokes gained approach heavy like you did. Greens in regulation I factored in there a little bit, which both those play off each other a little bit. And then it was the strokes gained par 5s, par 3s 200 to 225 yards, which most of those par 3s fall into. You don't normally see 5 par 3s on a course, so thought that was important. Then all I did was short game, which combines putting and around the green, and then bogey avoidance like you did as well. So I don't know about you, but Victor Hovland and Justin Thomas were 1-2 in my last 12, 24, and 36 round models.
Interesting. Mine varied pretty widely, actually, with all that. I mean, Hovland way up there, obviously, because listen, anytime that you weight approach as heavily as I did, Hovland's going to be towards the top. The guy is on fire with his irons. I mean, like last week, he was just horrible around the greens and putting, which is why he couldn't get anything going. But I mean, the guy is just, he is hitting irons better than anybody.
Yeah, last 24 rounds, he's number 1 in the field.
Yeah, he's just better than everybody. And the thing is, for me, over the last 50 rounds, the number 1 guy, and listen, he's not in the greatest form right now, Lou Oosthuizen. Number 1 in my model over the last 50 rounds. Over the last 36 rounds, Martin Laird.
Yeah, I messed around with Martin Laird again this
Number
week.
1 in my model over the last 36. In the last 24, Martin Laird again coming in at number 1 as far.
He was top 10 in my last 24 and 36.
As far as that goes. So I had to play a little bit of Martin Laird. I got him I just have in a placement market. I might add an outright on him, just a very small one, because he's going to have, he has bomb odds. And so, maybe
I think we did the same thing. They both played top 40s on him. I think is that what we did.
I only have 4 outrights for this one. Victor Hovland at 1150, Noren at 55-1, Wise at 75-1, and Hadwin at 78-1. And this is really me just sticking to the numbers here, Kelley. Top 20s on Noren, top 30s, that should be top 30. Top 30 on Hadwin and Mito, and then top 40 on Wise and Laird. This is just me sticking to my numbers. I mean, it is the odds not agreeing with where these guys show up in my model. I have Adam Hadwin over the last 24 rounds. He's up at number 6 in my model, right? And yet I'm getting him at this really long odds. So that's kind of how I went as far as the betting card this week.
All right.
Yeah, well, I'll get to mine when we get back, but I'm with you. JT and Victor were the 2 guys off the top of me, but it was hard for me to pull the trigger at 9, 10, 11-1. I might look to jump in on them live. So only a few outrights for me too. We'll go over those when we come back.
Yes, we will. More Valspar Championship. I want to ask the question, too, about all the long shots that have come home in this tournament over the last 10 years or so. Reason for that. On the other side, Kelley, we stopped short. Before we get to your picks, I have a question. We flashed up on the screen past champions here at Valspar, and there was like a whole bunch of serious long shots. Based on all the stuff you've said, is that logical that that's happened, or is that just random, would you say?
I mean, this is a super, super tough course. And so, like I said, it doesn't necessarily reward being bold. And, I mean, this is just a theory on my end. Like, I think a lot of these better players think that they can do things on courses that and they can 9 times out of 10, right? But, like, there's just a lot of trouble on courses like this if you try too hard and try to make stuff out of nothing. And so for me, Kelley, I just think it's probably along the lines of guys find themselves in a spot where they're like, I can do this. I'm gonna be able to do it. And next thing you know, you look up and you've made a 6 or a 7 or an 8, and then you're out because it's such a low low score that's going to win this thing anyway. It's so hard to make birdies that once you triple, you're almost out of it.
Yeah, in my mind, always the really tough courses or the really easy courses are where you're going to see more of that variety of some of the longer shots. Because especially if you take this course, you take the Players Champ, you take the Honda Classic, you're talking about very difficult courses where there's also water involved, and water can change everything, right? We see that at the Players, where you could have a great round going, and then you'd put one in the water on 17 and you're toast. So I think there's a little bit of that going on, and then when it's the easier course, it just becomes a putting fest sometimes. It's just whoever's putter gets hot is going to win the dang thing.
I say that 5 out of the last 10 champions have been pre-flop 70-1 or longer. But then I look at the names, and most of them turned out to be awesome later in their career, right? Woodland, Streelman, Hadwin, Burns last year 70-1. So maybe it's that too. Just coincidence. Kelley, your plays though.
Yeah, so outrights, all I did outright-wise was Brooks Koepka at 33-1. I'm just going back. I'm going back to Brooks again. Ended up making the cut, missing the cut last week, so a couple extra days to prep for this. I thought played him last week. If I played him last week at 33-1 with this field, which is definitely worse than last week, thought it was worth at least putting a little bit of money back on him.
He was cruising until he wasn't.
Exactly, he was cruising until he wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, he was doing well, and then it just went completely off the rails.
He was one of those people that had that impossible stretch on 16, 17 where the wind's blowing 50 miles an hour. There was no way he's putting it on the island green. So I had him. I added Russell Knox, who was a guy that came up very high in my models. Matt played well at the Players last week. So I took a flyer on him at 70-1. And then one I wanted to point out on here, caught this market at Boyd. Boyd here in town had Gary Woodland listed at 50-1 on the outrights, Matt. Went and bet him in the market of without Hovland, Justin Thomas, Dustin Johnson, or Colin Morikawa. So I bet him at 40-1 there. The number kind of didn't make sense to me. It felt like it should be shorter than that with those four guys removed from the betting odds. So 40-1 on Woodland. I mean, everybody that's watched this show knows I'm just betting Woodland basically every week at this point, but this is a tournament he has won before, has had some success here before, so do like him this week. And then a lot of the same as far as the finishing position markets. I think we landed on a lot of the same guys. Top 20s on Fitzpatrick and Shane Lowry. Lowry been playing pretty well recently. All these really model plays here. Top 20s on both those guys. Top 30 on Russell Knox. Played that pretty heavy. And then top 30 on Alex Noren and Adam Hadwin. First round leader bets that I just added before the show that are not on my graphic. I played a little bit of Justin Thomas at 26-1. Keegan Bradley 40-1. Alex Noren 55-1, and Von Taylor at 140-1 for a bit of a long shot. First round leader bets, I don't think they're plus EV long term, but I've said this a few times already. This is like the blackjack side bet, and I've hit it a few times already this year. It's like the only thing that's made me money in golf over the past 2 months. So you could crack on me if you want, but I'm going to keep playing them because the only thing that's made me some money over the past few weeks, it feels like.